This old-time radio program was originally aired live, long before the advent of high fidelity. As a result, you may detect an occasional surface noise or volume drop due to transmission problems so common to old radio. We hope, however, that any variance in audio quality will not take away from your pleasure in listening to this, one of the all-time favorite shows.
It's Woolworth's Stereo Spectacular 71, a fantastic once-a-year sale of albums, LPs, tapes, everything in stereo, unbelievably low priced. Woolworth's Stereo Spectacular has top stereo LPs, the biggest hits just off the charts for only $1.57. Famous labels, favorite stars, Herb Alpert, Petula Clark, The Association, Canned Heat, many more for only $1.57. And another fabulous group of LPs on sale for just 87 cents. Jack Jones, The Beach Boys, Guess Who, and more. And for children, the original cast album of Sesame Street, only 87 cents. Woolworth Stereo Spectacular has big savings on 8-track stereo cartridges. Dionne Warwick, Lou Rawls, Glenn Campbell, Blind Faith, many more for only $2.99. Supplies are limited, so hurry over and save during Woolworth Stereo Spectacular 71.
Thank you for shopping Woolworth. It's the fun place to shop.
Stephanie, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it, and thank you for the time. And I wanted to kind of have you introduce yourself to the audience. So many have seen you in your incredible Instagram videos. You're so hilarious. I've been a fan for a long time since I saw your Guten video. Oh my God, that Guten video it was like my babushka across the street. That's like everyone's grandma in Chicago.
Oh my gosh, that warms my heart because I miss Guten and. Yeah, I really love Guten, and sometimes I'm like, should I bring him back or bring her back? We don't really know.
Please.
So that's awesome. But yeah, I'm Stephanie Barkley. I'm a maker of things. That's the broad. Those are
the broad strokes. So you make all kinds of things. I mean, so you grew up in Chicago. How when did you move to LA? What age were you?
I moved to LA when I was 29.
Okay. So relatively late. Yeah.
Yeah. I began in Chicago. If you want to even go that far.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I actually moved out here the same age. So I mean, I grew up in Arlington Heights. So we had that kind of Midwestern upbringing, and it's that the tornado sirens and everything in the summers and all that fun stuff.
Oh yeah, that was I haven't had recently, but I was a reoccurring dream I had as a child was a tornado, and no one was home, right? And you were going to everyone's house, and no one's home, and I remember that's just happened all the time in my dreams.
And you had to rush to did you have a basement in your house or no?
Yes, I did have a basement.
Did you ever have it where when it would rain really bad, it would flood through the storm drain in the basement?
Yeah, it would flood a little bit, but nothing too. I don't think actually no. We had some actually no. There was I remember 2 floods where in our basement we had these tiles kind of on the ceiling, and I think that you might remember what I'm saying, but there's
like
these
office
tiles. If they were to get wet, they sponge up and break
apart.
Right,
like an office building tiles.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, we had the same thing. Yep.
Yeah, that would happen.
That was always fun. And then I remember plunging the water down the drain, if it was really downpour. Uh-huh. So what was it like then for you growing up? You came from a relatively medium-sized family?
Yes, I had 2 younger sisters. I have 2 younger sisters.
Okay.
And I guess I would say I have a lot of energy. I was very active. That's kind of where I don't know if I'd say I did a great job in my grades at school, but I made up for it in my extracurricular activities.
All right.
I was in Girl Scouts all the way through high school. I was, did all of my sports, soccer, tennis, and I was in this group, and a lot of art. Art was a big part of my life, and that's when I grew up. I mean, when I went to school in Bloomington at IU,
Okay.
and I studied studio art. And then when I came back, I was literally I was quite literally an artist. I was doing art fairs in Chicago. The Wine Crush. Gosh, I don't remember what it's called, on Oak, on in Old Town. In Old
Oh
Town,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I had my little 10 by 10 tent, and I'd sell my paintings, and I worked I worked doing that, like, painting portraits for people. I did murals for people's homes. I was a painter.
That's so
That did
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
But did you ever? You probably know like Long Grove Village and like the Ice House Mall. That's
Oh,
in. You know what I mean?
Long
Um,
Grove, old Long Grove. I remember going there with my mom when I was
yeah,
really young. I
yeah.
don't know if it's still there, but we'd
It
go
is.
there.
It
And
is. Yeah, yeah.
oh,
Still the
that's
same.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd get the chocolate, the
They
little
yeah they
chocolate
do the
confection.
chocolate festivals and like all the different weird festivals there, and it's such a
Yeah, and
quaint
it's
little
super
cobblestone
cozy.
place.
Yeah, very cozy, super cozy spot.
So you were doing murals, and then did you just decide that you probably would have made a better income if you were doing like painting sets and painting out in LA, or where was the transition?
Okay, so it was really interesting. I started as so when I came out of school, um I worked doing like corporate floor plans for like office company like design, and that
Okay.
kind of, and I did that until probably 8 months, until I was like, this is a great job, but I can't do this. I need to be near I need to make my art. So that I made that decision pretty quickly. Then I did what I had just explained before, which was I got into, I thought, I'm gonna paint. I'm gonna start my own business. I had this little studio. Called it Blue Terrace Studio, and so I worked painting at people. People would, by word of mouth, I was painting people's homes. People, just subcontracting. Um, then I got into. I was like, well, I really want to do more with that. I want to work in designing, sets. So I actually started, working at there's a children's theater in Lincolnshire. There was Steppenwolf downtown, Looking Glass Theater. I started working
Yeah,
as
yeah.
in props and set design, and again, super. I'd work and work and work for nothing to work with a certain designer, and then I would begin to be hired. And that was really a um, it was very rewarding, but there also for living wise, the money wasn't there, and so that led me to art department in film and TV in Chicago. I started working in the art department and doing all I just kind of really got thrown in because I was really determined to be successful. You know, I knew that I had the ability to work with all types of different people. It's just kind of a feeling. I was just always around different types of people. So I really didn't fear meeting all, getting into, I mean, I remember Witless Protection was in Chicago. How they hired me. I walked in with like a full on, like full on, probably like a Ann Taylor looking, work suit.
Okay. Okay.
And I quickly realized that this is not how production works. So then and I was hired to work as the art department coordinator, and then that just teaches you so much because you become a producer really quickly. Because art department is, I say the first to come and the last to leave.
Right.
And I
And
did that. Yeah.
well, and so like, what was a typical work day? I mean, it's not like a 9 to 5 thing. So when you're doing projects, I mean, you're doing what, 12-hour plus days?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh for sure. 18. There was. I mean, I remember once I was art directing the film unit on SNL, and I think I worked for 23 hours all the way
Holy
through.
shit! Wow.
Yeah. You kind of get like a high when that second wind comes in, and you forget. Then maybe like that 9 or 10th hour the next day is when you feel miserable.
Or you just forget how to tell time. You're awake so long. You forget how many hours
when
have
you're
passed.
when that at that point I was in New York, so you have you're working hard, you're playing hard, you're kind of always not sure where I was always working, but I don't know if I was where I was in my mind. Let's just say that.
Right.
So yeah, that then I production designed for years, and then that became it's a difficult job, and it's thankless. I guess that's the best word I can come up with for that. And that led me to wanting to tell my own stories. And so I started creating characters, and I started not necessarily funny or what the norm would consider funny, but
All right.
characters just the same. And then
just like writing them down in a book, or like what was the original process? You had these characters in your mind, and you would just like take notes and create them, or you would just start film rolling and see what happened?
I was taking let's see, Vine had just come out, but I had not played with that at all. I was watching some terrible show on TV. It was called like Amish Mafia or something, and I thought,
okay,
how odd would it be to like have this
Amish
woman
Mafia,
like escape?
man.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, what if this woman escaped? She escaped her community, and like how life would be. So like, I mean, I remember going to Memphis to visit Elvis's grave.
Oh, okay.
And I was in full, I would just went in full costume as Ruth, this character. And I just went, and I didn't it wasn't, I mean, I guess someone would consider it, to be a street performance, but it wasn't. I just was experiencing it as this woman. And so I kind of really got into that. I mean, I did UCB in New York. But the character there, it was just funny because I would talk to strangers about how I just love music and how I'm so excited to have electronics in my life, and just like
you should have gone to like a Marilyn Manson concert and seen what had happened.
I should have. Yeah, no, I really should have. Yeah, exactly. So
that was your first. That was the very first character.
I that's one that sticks out big in
Gotcha.
my timeline.
Gotcha. And so as you started filming that's when you decided to start doing Vines, and it grew from there? Or did you just experiment with taking longer videos at first?
No, I started, so Vine for me was like a way to experiment like a little quick concept. And also in my mind, I couldn't help but like put production behind it. Because I was like, I'm not gonna, meanwhile that really, I don't think that really mattered for the viewers. I mean, viewers just liked it when you picked up your phone and
basically,
but to me, I probably put, that's just probably.
But that was that's your art. That's your artistic brain, though, seeing it because you're dissecting it. So
yeah, and it's a I don't know if it's a blessing. It's exhausting, but yeah, that is for sure. That's exactly how it went.
So you were in New York still at this point, though, right?
Yes. So I was in Chicago, then I moved to New York. And then I was there in New York for about 5 years.
Wow. What part of Manhattan were you in?
I was in I started in the Upper East Side, and split one bedroom with 3 friends. Had like a sheet. I got like some cheap cord from IKEA, and then like had like a sheet that would separate our rooms.
At least you weren't sleeping in the bathtub.
Yeah, no. I mean, no, not at all. But that
it was an option.
Have been a bad idea. Yeah. And then I was in Lower East Side, on Broome and Eldridge.
Okay.
Yeah, Broome and Eldridge near Chinatown in Little Italy.
So at that point, was it just that you had made some contacts through UCB that you thought moving out to LA would be a viable option at that point, or was it something you planned kind of in advance?
I honestly, I thought I really like improv, but it also is something that I wasn't really committed to just improv. I knew how to, I understood the concept. I would just, for me, for characters, it's you're either in it or you're not.
Right.
Kind of like Christopher Guest, Spinal Tap is a wonderful example. Like it's just, funny is subtle, and just the situations are funny. So improv is a great tool because you get out of your head and it forces you. You cannot be in your head. It's impossible.
But it's still, that was the thing. I was trying to think like it's not like you're a stand-up comedian. It's not like you're a sketch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think the best way I can describe, and you probably would think this is funny too, is as I was researching you and I type in Stephanie Barkley interview, there were two things that autofilled. It said Stephanie Barkley interview, and right below it, Stephanie Barkley obituary. And, and those were the two things. And I thought, all right, there's something in that.
Yeah,
but it's like, it's hard to describe really what you do because it is kind of like sketch, but you do put a lot more into it and you do commit yourself so much more than what you see from traditional sketch artists. Like with Sensei Fu Manchu, I don't know how you even do that voice so well.
Oh, thank you.
It seems like a voiceover almost, but it's so damn funny.
I thank you. Yeah, thank you. It took a little bit to get there, and then a little. I take it down just a decibel, and it gets to where I want it to go. I think that yeah, I like directing these situations. So I'll get hired to be a very specific character for something, and I love that. But when I'm creating my own stuff, I kind of find myself really, I guess that's how I would put it. I mean, but an actor. I mean, all the same. It's kind of hard because you have all these different things now, and I sometimes I don't like that people can't really put me in a category, but at the same time, I guess that's just the lone wolf in me.
Is that, I was going to ask, is that like a disadvantage with casting ever that, if you're, because you could very easily play a dramatic role. You obviously can play comedic roles, but, like, have there been times where it's kind of worked against you?
No, actually, I've done a lot of dramatic roles this year. Lots of dramatic shorts, and two, very straight characters, and this year actually. That's funny, and so people have it's worked to my advantage, I guess, in the way that people have seen my work.
But you've also got companies coming after characters, like the mermaid character was sought out for the environmental campaign, which is that's so cool. But I'm a huge proponent of getting all this crap out of the ocean that we've just demolished it with now. But to be able to have a character like that utilized, that must have been so cool.
Oh, it was very cool. It was really fun, and it's fun. I've never worn a fin before, but man, those are heavy. They're super heavy, and they squeeze your legs so tight. I love that character because when I spoke to the founder of Final Straw, she really wanted to have. She liked the quick-wittedness and some of my just myself being myself, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
In the characters, I guess I just want to say it's myself, not characters. But the back and forth, sassiness of, I mean, this is the way to be. I mean, it's either this or nothing. I mean, you have to.
Well, the McDonald's commercial you did too was like that almost, with just you being sassy and you being you. It seemed like.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it's helpful to have those characters in your back pocket when you need when something comes up like that, when a sponsored opportunity comes up, because you can go, oh, I can do that, or I can find that person in somewhere in my brain, in your brain. And that's just a lot of different teachers or schools have helped me get there quicker, but I feel like
the drive was always there. I mean, really, it was always you. You just found the right steel, like, what do they say? Steel sharpens steel sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
that's a good
you went into the right place. But do you remember as a kid, because I'm 35. So in Illinois, I remember that like during elementary school summer breaks on TV, they would still be doing reruns of like Gilligan's Island, I Love Lucy, Bewitched, all that.
Hold on. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, did that, because I ask because there was a skit you did. I'm a huge fan of I Love Lucy.
Uh-huh.
And there's a
Yeah.
skit you did of the when they went and had to get jobs, and it was at the chocolate factory. I lived right
Yeah.
beside where the original
Yeah. So
factory
that was
was.
more. That's funny you mentioned that. I'm glad you liked it. And you just did you just like the kind of the reenactment of it?
Yeah, yeah. I just like that somebody even remembered it in the first place,
Oh
because there's
yeah.
so many people that don't even, they probably would watch that and think it's original content.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks so much. That was like so Vine wasn't enough for me. Obviously it wasn't. I wanted to make more from it, but it did kind of prick me in the back, so to speak, like when Dumbo gets pricked by the needle and then he flies.
Right.
So that was kind of like, okay, just do it now, but with that specific one, I Love Lucy, I knew I only had 6 seconds, and so I remember that moment, and I remember, okay, well, I know I can set design. So I got, everything was blue. Actually, I had all the tones of blue I knew would match the gray scale that they had in the black and white I Love Lucy. That's just because
Through
of years
experience,
of
you'd learned that. Yeah.
yeah, just years of that. And in my face, just I still have like a color aid pack of every single color, and cutting my fingers with X-Acto knives. Anyway, that is ultimately the idea I had was, well, this would be fun. I had a prop studio for a short time in Greenpoint, and so this gal had reached out, and I thought, well, this would be really fun to do. And I just, I did the costumes, I did the background. I had two friends helping on either side. I bought chocolate, which I really bought the chocolate so I could eat it later. Let's be honest, no one knew, but they were like chocolate clusters, and yeah,
That's
and
the
then
only part you were looking forward to.
yeah,
That was
really,
that
no,
was it.
truly.
Let's
And
get
then,
this shot so we can eat.
yeah, I just was fully on, just kind of a fun thing for me to do, to just kind of match. It was kind of a professional hobby, I guess. I wanted to make it exactly the way it was.
Oh, and
So,
you definitely accomplished that. And I mean, were you always a fan of old Hollywood? Like as I said, watching those shows as we were growing up, I know it shaped me creatively,
yeah,
huge, and as well as listening to like old time radio shows and all that.
yeah.
But like,
I used to record old, fake radio shows in my bedroom.
really,
Yeah, I don't know if I remember 104.3,
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
oldie station. That was the only station that my mother would allow me to listen to in the car. She would,
Okay.
so it was like 104.3, dependable shadow traffic, with, Dick Biondi, or I don't know what the names, but that was, and so I would do my own show in my room, and and yeah, definitely, Dick Van Dyke, Dick Van Dyke uh, more than Gilligan's Island. But yeah, the characters were so goofy and fun and recognizable.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
just so different. It seemed like it was. I don't want to say more pure, but I don't know. It was definitely a simpler style of comedy, and they had so many limitations
yeah,
on them back then, and yet you can still watch I Love Lucy, and it's just as hilarious now. Which, I mean, my God, to think, what, 70 years plus,
yeah,
and it
exactly. It's
still
amazing.
can click.
Yeah,
But you know, if you were living in old Hollywood, let's say that this is 1935 or something, and you're here in old Hollywood, you're an actress, considering that it's still the old studio system. Do you think, like, what do you think your acting in your mind, what would it have taken form as? Would you like be hanging out at the Garden of Allah with the other creative types, and like, have you ever thought, you know what I mean?
I would definitely be wearing pants.
Okay, okay.
And I know that, and you know, the yeah, I don't see my, I think of, I was just thinking of Mary Poppins for some reason. I don't know why.
So you'd wear pants and have a big umbrella and penguin.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds
That
good.
works.
Yeah, that sounds nice. Yeah.
So getting back to, okay, so you're getting ready to leave New York. What did actually lead you to LA?
I had put I told myself I wanted to end, my career as a production designer, and that is very difficult. Once you have, I was in the union, I had a bunch of contacts, I had an
Yeah, you
agent.
were established, totally.
Yeah, I worked hard and quickly, and then that was, and I just, and I knew, okay, well, if I get into a bad, a bad place with money, then I'll have this to fall back on. But I told myself, no, you can't do that, because if you do that, then
Right.
you won't move.
It's a
So that
crutch,
was
yeah.
difficult. Yeah, it was difficult when I first got here. And what I guess I'll to answer your question, what led me to here was I was dating. I was with someone at the time, and it was it was either we have to do it now or it's just not going to happen. I
Right. You'll
also
keep
was
finding excuses. Yeah.
right, and I I felt like there's a small industry in New York as well. I just didn't want to continue living there. I love to visit. I don't want to live there. It's very expensive. And it's very big. But once you get into a routine there, you find yourself, and everyone should experience it at some point. But I knew that Juan always knew what my breakfast sandwich was, and it was great to
Mm.
walk in and everyone would smile. And it's like I had this routine though, and it wasn't, and it became small. The world became very small. I
And
just wanted,
comfortable. Yeah. Just comfort in
yeah,
your routine. Yeah.
yeah. And so when I got here, even I I'd come here years before on a project to art direct, and I worked on it, and I thought, okay, I'm not gonna move here yet. I don't want to move here. It's too spread out. And then when I came here the second time, I was really ready to sink my feet in. Also, I had a very like I had established following on Vine. So collaborating with people, it just started right away. One of my first friends when I moved here was Sunny Mabry, and I, we created a lot of fun stuff together. So just with that creative kind of itch that I had was I started doing it. Now money was an issue. Right away, I remember I got my agent and called me and said, "Hey, do you want to design this movie called Sharknado 2?"
Right.
And I was like, "Oh man, I had already bought the Blu-ray of the first one because I thought it was so ridiculously wonderful." So I went back to New York and I designed that, and I finished up with a week here, and then I was like, that's it. And then I think I did one more feature after that, and that feature hired me as an actress as well. And then I was like, that's it.
Well, then that's worth it, because if you were able to get an acting job out of it, it's kind of
Yeah.
serving
Yeah.
both masters. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's the skill is never going to go away. But I don't, yeah, I just don't, it's gone. The chapter has is over.
So, but during this time, I mean, obviously you're getting pulled in so many different directions, trying to establish this new career as
Hmm.
well as trying to wrap up your old one. You
Hmm.
must have dealt with adversity all the time that affected you,
Oh,
in ways you might not have even noticed at the time.
right. Yeah. It's so frustrating. So
S-
frustrating.
Like, what are some of the times of adversity that you could think of that were, that really stand out in your mind?
Do you mean adversity is like just issues with people being like, wait, you did this. What are you doing now?
Well, just adversity, like how it might have affected you, physically or mentally, as you were trying to, have your hands in so many jars, type thing.
Yeah, and just trying to get out of one jar, I guess, and then to the other. Um I I found my most the difficult part was, and I still struggle with this from time to time, is creating a structure for yourself,
Okay.
and you know having these scattered thoughts and to dos, and not having a clear structure was difficult for me because I was saying yes to everything. I was saying yes to everything. And I do believe that saying yes is usually the way to go. But it was I struggled with, I guess
Like keeping your
changing
head
over.
above water, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think I felt like I was drowning sometimes, and also, I didn't really like the idea of, I just wanted, I knew the quality, was there. I wanted my stuff to be seen, and I didn't want to rely on this thing that, we call the internet. It was just kind of overwhelming to me, and I really didn't like it. I thought it was just, there was a lot, that's when bullies and everything was just, I didn't read my,
Right.
I tell people all the time, I get really hurt by, certain things on the, internet. I'm like, oh, I just was so, I understood it right away, and I just kept moving. I don't know if I'm making sense. I hope
No,
I'm
you
making
totally
sense.
are. You totally are,
Okay.
but you basically, like, you can't read it. You can't give in or read into any of that. It
No.
stunts the creative process, number one, and number two, it really is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Because as long as you like what you're putting out and you feel like that's you and you are being you, then so what everybody else thinks, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like the world is so small and the world is so big. I mean, I feel like when I remember when I left college, I remember I had said to myself, I have to save up. I have to save up. I got to get out of here. I got to go to Europe. So I remember going to Europe by myself.
Oh,
I
cool.
just, yeah, yeah. I forgot that just, and I felt, I had this understanding. I had this understanding that, the world is big, I guess, just like Sammy would say, if you remember Sammy, but, the world is big and full of so many interesting things.
Right.
And, it's just, you have to, you know, I had to be open. And that's what ended my relationship and also kept me going up, because the person I was with at the time could not, and still might not be able to grasp that. And
Gotcha.
that's not a good thing to have around, if you're not, that's the two opposite things.
Well, especially with an artist. I mean, you have to live a life where you realize that, coffee here is not coffee in Italy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
just morning here is not what it's like if you wake up in Sydney. It's just there are so many drastic and so many subtle differences. And like you said, I mean, really, we are such a small speck in the universe,
Hmm.
but yet we're so big and place so much emphasis on likes and followers and you know what I mean? It's a
Hmm.
weird contrast,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
and it's especially people that are creative usually are the most sensitive as well. It seems like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and
But
it's
I
created
put
this
a lot of,
weird dynamic.
yeah, I put a lot of that. I try to. People don't see. It's very clear. People don't see, and if I don't show if my vulnerability, I only am able to show that in performances that offer me that chance to do that. And otherwise, really, I don't really show. It's a different. It's a business. Also,
Right.
having Instagram is a business, but how much am I going to show of my personal life? I don't really, I don't even think about that sometimes. And I also think, oh, I don't care. I don't care. I do what
Mhm.
I do feel that I want to just do what I really like. I mean, I remember getting millions and millions of views, likes on certain things that I had made. And I didn't like those things. And I thought, I don't want to do this. I don't want to make stuff like that. So I just didn't, again, that was a quick, like,
It's a
little,
good life lesson though.
it was a quick little, yeah, little notch that I turned. And I thought, well, I'm just going to really try to be I'm going to really try to be as present as I can and just do what's true to me that I think is funny. I mean, when you were talking about the purity of old Hollywood, or what was seen, I do think that, like, my favorite stuff is just, it's not, I'm not a big fan of blue humor. Like, I really like, comedy that is sweet. Just like sweet and pure and innocent, and it's situational, I
Well, that's the
guess, if that
hardest
makes
comedy
sense.
to write, as well. That's the thing is it wouldn't seem like it would be, but it really is the most difficult to write something that can stand the test of time. And
Hmm.
usually, that is the type of comedy that stands the test of time.
Oh yeah, I mean, Step Brothers. I watched it the other day again. I mean, just there's just so many great moments in that, right? Because it's so sweet, and it's just, they're, purely, they're these two brothers that are super excited to be around each other, and
Yeah,
that's so funny. That is so
and
funny.
and like Chris Farley too, Tommy Boy, he had that kind of
uh
element to him as well.
oh yeah, he's just very innocent, and just like him with his hand, like, is there anything right here? I feel like there's a mark right here, and
Right.
no, and it's, yeah, I mean, gosh, he's the best, and he's an Illinois boy too.
That's right. Yeah, I remember the day he died, and it was all over the news in Chicago. It was just crazy. I was talking about that with Tony Cavallero. It
Mm,
just was such a weird moment in time.
it's just
But
so sad. It was so
yeah,
sad.
and so many comedians go down that route, whether it's through depression or addiction. And like I said, I think it is connected to that sensitivity of not necessarily. It's like you're not in touch entirely with your emotions internally, so you exhibit it outwardly.
Hmm.
And there's just this weird balance that you have to spend your whole life really trying to figure out. and sometimes it just proves to be too much for some, unfortunately.
Yeah, I've for a while I had felt a little resentment towards my design career, and I thought, well, what if I was doing this earlier and I could have da. But I have I've come to um, I've made peace with that because of what you were just saying. Because um, I've had these crazy ups and crazy downs, and I've you know had my ups and downs physically and mentally, and so I feel like I can handle, pretty well. I can handle these situations. If if I was 23 years old, I don't think I would be able to. If
Well,
I,
and not just that. I think the other most important thing to look at it as is to see that you wouldn't be creating the type of content that you wouldn't be creating that if you didn't have that design experience behind you, because that technical info really does apply to all the stuff that you create.
thank you. Yeah,
And who
thanks.
knows that might be a completely different realm, a completely different world of what you would be making had you not had that experience.
Yeah, no, that's true, and thanks for seeing that.
But so I mean, what works for you then when because especially, my God, here in Hollywood, there's so much rejection and so
Hmm.
much of conformity that has to occur, and so many people so many people you have to please in order to put your final product out.
Hmm.
Uh, how did you find ways to cope with that? How did you find ways to keep centered?
Um, okay. Well, without being sounding negative, I mean, the one thing you just said was, for people for people to see it, right? Is that what you're saying? For people
Right,
to
right.
see your work? Well, I quickly realized that, there's two types. There's the people that go out and they can, people say network, but let's be honest, it's just getting to know people, or not even getting to know them, just being out and meeting people at some,
Right place, right
club.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, or some club, and it's da da da. I had no interest in that. I was already exhausted. I had already gone to all the bars in New York, like I already partied, and I was like, well, I'm not I don't want to. That just seems like it. Like, I guess that just seemed like that's not what I'm
Yeah,
interested in.
repeat. Yeah, it'd be like just a
Yeah,
repeat.
yeah, and also it wasn't. I have no. It wasn't. There would be an agenda, and I think a lot of people here have an agenda. So I
Oh
just
yeah.
thought, yeah, right. So I just thought, I thought, um, gosh, I put a lot of I mean, I just found joy in, you know, creating, this world by myself. Now, it was lonely at times. I mean, I spent a lot, I spend a lot of money on things like, the amount of wigs I have, and just things and I try to clean them out, clean stuff out all the time, but it's like, oh, I need that because of this, or I need that because of this. Um, but you're saying, how did I get through,
Like,
I
yeah, like
guess.
how, because I'm just thinking if there's people that are listening that would love to, make that move to LA to potentially start a career being an actor or an actress.
Oh,
A lot of them don't realize that you really have to have mental strength and be prepared for this type
oh,
of, well, you're
oh,
not
yeah.
this, sorry, and it's
Okay.
nothing personal even.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So here we go. That helps me. Okay. So my experience in it still is, you have to have, a solid in you have to have solid money coming in, so you don't have to worry about money, because if you're worrying about money, then that affects your creative, mind. So that's one thing you want to get situated. And I think it's always good to have hobbies. I can't tell you how many times I've been in classes here, and there's actors or actresses, actors that don't that, like, they don't know what to do with themselves if they're not doing the next commercial. And in my mind, I was always thinking, gosh, I don't get any commercials. But I'm fine. I'm always busy because I'm making something.
You're
Because I
always
have this.
learning.
Because I'm always learning. I'm always learning. I'm still always learning. And so, like, it's, you get a lot of people that think, oh, they know how to, they're in their world, they know everything already. And that's, I guess, fine. But that is not the way to come into any town and say, I want to start acting. You need to have a good solid, just a solid part-time job, so you don't have to worry about paying rent and paying, for food, and keeping yourself, at the, you know, just you're
It's the bare minimum.
keeping yourself in a good place where you're like, I can live like this. I I think that's really important. And then immersing yourself, not being afraid to immerse yourself in all different types of classes, depending on what you want to focus on. Because a lot of times you can get to a class, whether that's an improv class at the Groundlings, whether that or Second City, or just an improv class, the improv theater, and if you're not open to all the possibilities that might happen, you might shut yourself off and go, this isn't for me. But you have to wait it out. You have to, just know it's a journey and
Right.
be part of it, because that class will lead to the next class and the next class, or whatever that class might be.
And don't get
Um,
overwhelmed. Yeah.
and don't get overwhelmed, because if you let yourself get overwhelmed, then you can't really see the progress you've made, and also you're not enjoying yourself.
Right. And you might end up taking, especially like you say with money, or if you're too overwhelmed, you might end up getting involved in projects that you really don't even have any passion for, and you do it out of necessity.
Right. Exactly. And also, I just think it's important to have like a community of people that, I've met so many friends from classes I've taken, so many friends from the Groundlings, and even, from my acting classes at BGB Studio, just friends that we share the same, opinions, and we have the same drive, and they want to, lots of people. I love when people want to work with me, because that gives me like another color to use
Right.
on my palette. Oh, where do I want to put this person, or what would be funny for us to do, or so, anyway.
What about dealing have you had to deal with sexism out here? You must have. I mean, there must be.
I dealt with more sexism in, well, okay, there's some things to say about that for sure. When I was a production designer, okay, I know that what I look like. I'm a small, little Sicilian looking girl that doesn't look like she has a lot to, like, I can't handle some things. And I would just assume that, because I knew that was probably the way I might seem. But I was hiring men that were, in their 50s to, draft things for a movie or whatever. So back um, in New York, and also here, when I, like one of the last movies I did. So
Okay.
sexism, as far as just people not respecting the thing, my decisions to make, that made me kind of have a hard shell around me.
Okay.
And a
And
tougher tone around me that I didn't really like about myself.
and how did you overcome that?
I overcome that when I did, well, gosh, acting classes really help you, get to the core of, they're not therapy, but they definitely get you to be honest about
It's a form. It's definitely a form of it.
your vulnerability comes out. I haven't, I guess, I kind of turn my head at those things, and I don't, and I say, and maybe that is the positive part of having that shell. I don't, I saw someone, I have a good friend the other day, and she's like, when I first met you, you came by with your tripod, and I just was like, whoa, this girl really knows what she's doing. I'm super intimidated. And I don't like that people might be intimidated. I don't like that, but I do, have this attitude, like, I'm going to do this so you can,
A professional
F off.
attitude. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to be respectful of you and you and you. And if you don't like me, then you can F off, because I don't really know why you wouldn't like me. I don't, I'm a nice person. But
Well,
that's
yeah, but yeah, it's like either it clicks or it doesn't,
yeah.
And if it doesn't, then all right, whatever, too bad.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like, and so, like, sexism, as far as, yeah, I guess, so yeah, I just turn my head away from it. I just know that if there is, that's just someone that I'm not going to work with. I haven't had a lot of that. Fortunately, I haven't experienced too much of that.
And even as an actress, it hasn't ever come across.
Um, um, I
Sort of yes, sort of no.
sort of yes. No, it's important to know, um, just because there's so many different people that work in different ways. It's important to, I guess I'd say this, know what you're comfortable with doing,
Yeah.
and be vocal about it, because I know that I'm I'm at times not vocal, and in the past I think you, just depending on who you're talking to, that you might think everything's okay, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this isn't okay, I'm not okay with this. You have to be vocal, and it's and you shouldn't feel silly about that. I mean, that's fine.
Right, right. And especially if you establish it from the beginning. But yeah, there's so many people that are, newbies to acting that, yeah, they
Oh,
just
it's
basically
terrifying.
they just run the gamut of all different things that they may not be comfortable with, but are going to get exposed to anyway,
Oh,
just
it's
to get the
terrifying.
job,
Yeah, it's terrifying. And I have, I've had really close friends of mine, that I just, there's things that I would never do. I mean, and I love them dearly, but it's just, you know, it just
What
happens.
what's something, if you could go back in time to those first moments when you were moving out here to LA, and you ended up having to take those additional production jobs, what's something that you would tell your past self, at that moment, if from where you're standing now
In LA or in New
in
York,
in LA in LA?
taking the production jobs, like taking that production design job, or
Just that time frame. I mean, if you could go back in time and tell yourself something during that time of your career as you're just starting that transition here in LA.
okay. I guess I'd tell myself to relax and focus on one thing at a time.
That works.
Yeah,
What about
one thing.
something you need to tell yourself today?
Probably the same thing.
See, there you go. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. I guess I'd tell myself, oh, eh, let me see. I'm gonna take that back, Jeremy. I'd tell myself back then. I'd tell myself to um be more confident. That I I have it all going, and to just go forward with my chin up.
That's
Yeah.
that's one of the best features you can have. I mean, it's if you don't have confidence out here, you'll build confidence, over time out here for sure, with all the different types of auditions and all the different types of ways you can create things, but you have to have some type of format of it, when you're just starting.
Right. Right.
So what about, you mentioned these times that you did struggle through, darker times of not getting sleep and just
Hmm.
running the hamster wheel of your
Hmm.
thoughts through your mind. I mean, now at this point in your career, do you have any tips for people that may be struggling right now, that, as they're listening, are maybe dealing with depression or, bad anxiety, where they're unable to take that first step
Yeah.
to start creating? What tips have you learned that have worked for you?
Um, Stepping outside of yourself and seeing, stepping outside of yourself and realizing, well, what kind of person do you want to be? Am I the kind of person that wants to send out? I wish I sent out Christmas cards this year. I wish I wrote that letter to my friend. Um, I am these things because of technology. We often find ourselves not having time to do any of those things, which is really BS.
Right.
So stopping and reminding yourself, pick up my book. I'm going to probably not get through 10 pages of it, but that's okay, because I'm going to fall asleep after I read that 10th page,
Right.
going to sleep. um you know um Being like, taking time to spend time on focusing on people that you love, the people that you're grateful for. I think that what it might sound silly, but, like, there's something so wonderful about, like, really telling someone how you feel, whether that's your mom or your dad or your cousin or your good friend. Like, really, you know being having gratitude can take away that mind race in my mind.
Well, like you said, being present. I mean, it all
Hmm.
comes back to just being present, and even if things aren't exactly where you want them to be, if you're grateful for where you're at, and realize that those things can still occur, they can still come, then you're
Hmm.
you're pretty much there.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, and the like as you were going through any of those more difficult times, just, creatively, where you were frustrated, I mean, do you meditate? Have you found things like, just like going to the beach help clear your head, or are there any,
Yeah,
like, like, what do you,
sure.
what do you do when there's just a funk that you're in and you're like, I have to shake this?
Um, Nature. Yeah, I will like escape to. I remember I was going through a really rough time 2 years ago, like in April. I just picked up my stuff and I found a motel in like Three Rivers, and I just drove to Sequoia.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. It was very, I probably wasn't smart when I realized there was snow everywhere and all the trails I were on, I couldn't see them. It was a wonderful, it's the place where you can only hear, you know, you hear just your mind, you hear nothing. You hear the sky, you hear the wind, and you can just there's nothing more grounding, I feel. And I guess the other, well, as far as well, sleeping, I wanted to also say something about that, if that's
Yeah,
okay.
of
um
course.
it might sound simple, or like, sure, I'll do that, I'll do that, tomorrow, I'll do that next time. But if you don't like, it's it must like your computer and your phone must purposefully be removed from where you sleep at night.
Oh yeah, you have to lock it up in a cabin, something,
And
something.
it's bad, like I'm still like, oh, like, just I slept really well the last 2 nights, I'll say, and I had my phone in the other room.
There
um
you go. Yeah.
like, you have to, because otherwise you have entered you've walked into a door of like the Matrix, and you're
Right,
like,
the
never
Twilight
can turn
Zone.
it off.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Exactly. And it's probably, yeah, it's just better. And then having, creating a structure for yourself really helps. You ultimately helps your mind rest too, if you can say, here's, you know my boyfriend's really fantastic at this. Like, he every day he will, he runs, and he has this like kind of schedule he keeps at the beginning of the day, and I'm like, he's so good at taking care of himself. um and yeah, he has his ups and downs, but I feel like just having something you do at the same time, or every day, I think is it change it it's really can have a lot of positive effects
Well,
on
it's
you.
discipline, I think, really is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
it is discipline. That's the word, discipline. Yes.
But it's a distraction. Really, ultimately, is you have to find a passion and a distraction that gets you out of your own thoughts once in a while.
Yeah, and you have to take care of yourself. And like, I've never been really good at taking care of myself. It's always like, well, oh, I'm gonna go help this person and this person. But well, you really can't help anybody if you're not helping yourself. I know that sounds probably repetitive, but it's
No,
it's the
yeah,
truth.
you have to put your oxygen mask on first.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's
You
true.
know, well, how can we follow along with your next projects and what you have coming up, and just follow your journey?
Well, I'm on Instagram. I'm always, trying to keep some stuff flowing for everybody. Yeah, that's Steph Barkley, at Steph Barkley, and then on YouTube is Where is Steph. But I usually keep everyone informed on the new projects, as when I'm allowed to bring them to everyone's attention. Um, and yeah, some exciting projects in the works. And I have a dramatic short that I'm directing, and I like doing the film festival route. So, more to come. But yeah, I hope I answered all your
You
questions about
you
all that.
absolutely did that and so much more, and I'm excited to see this directed short of yours, and I'm always excited when I see like new partnerships that you've got going with businesses, because it's so cool to see you grow, and to, you know what I mean, to see all these new cool characters and commercials that other companies are seeing, to realize that you've got this incredible talent and this incredible bank uh, of uh, of characters that you can tap into.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks so much. That's awesome. I appreciate it.
Well, I want to thank you so much for being on, and it's like I said, it's always great seeing your new creations. You've got to say hi to Sensei for me,
Oh, I
and
will. He says hi back, and gives you a hug. Yeah.
thank you. Well, I've got to. I know I've missed a couple of classes at the Y,
Yeah.
so I'll be back in it soon though.
Oh,
You know,
awesome, awesome.
so I'll hand it over to you to sign us off if you like. And the one last thing that I do want to share for the listeners is I try to have something where if you go onto my website, sensoryshow.com, there's a portion of the website where if you're stuck in your thoughts, if you're like you can't sleep and you just are running around the hamster wheel and you need distraction, you can go on my site, and actually there's a little link where you can send me a creation of yours. Draw something on paper if you want. Draw your thoughts down. Draw some words down. Whatever is cathartic for you to just allow your creativity to try and flow and get you out of whatever headspace you need to get away from for a little bit. And if you go on the
wow.
website, yeah. And I'd love to invite you to do that too. If you ever, you want to make a little doodle of your feelings or just, anything that you feel like putting down on paper, I'd love to have you submit it, and we can put it up on the Instagram with the other guests and with the other listeners and take it from there.
Oh, I would love to. That was another thing that I would do, and when my mind would be racing, I would illustrate some weird illustration. That was another way to let my mind rest, I guess.
Yeah, it's such a unique respite, when you just do something as simple as, even if it's like a doodle on your phone. We've got this ability now to just doodle out little stick figure comic books on our phone, basically.
Oh, I'd love to send you some stuff. I'm actually gonna be hopefully getting my gallery going. I have a bunch of artwork, and I'll be hopefully getting that account going, called Perhaps Above, of my of all my artwork. So that I would love to send something over to you.
That would be so cool. Yeah, I would love to put it up, and we've got our other guests that participate as well, and that way any listeners that want to participate as well, you can see that this is something that we all struggle with. Everyone, we always deal with ups and downs in life. We always deal with being afraid of failure or being afraid of how things are perceived about us, and all the other little bullshit that comes along with life's intricacies. But
don't be afraid to fail. You can't be afraid to fail, because that's where I've learned the most. I've learned the most out of failing. That's a fact.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't, then you're not going to grow. It's all stepping stones for progress.
Mm-hmm.
But Steph, again, thank you so much, and I'll let you sign us off.
Well, thank you guys for listening. I'm Steph Barkley, and I can't wait to keep listening to Sensory Deprivation.